All right, well, good evening, everyone. I am Greg Louie, the principal for Saratoga High School, and it is my honor and pleasure to have the panel that we have here. Starting with my co-host tonight, our head guidance counselor, Ms. Alinna Satake, who will rename in a moment from SHS Zoom, so that way there's that. We also have our newest assistant principal here, Ms. Abra Evanoff, who will be partnering with Ms. Allen throughout the school year for the alphabet that I don't remember off the top of my head now. For some reason, it's 7 o'clock at night. Pop quiz, Ms. Avanoff, do you remember your alphabet?
Pop quiz, I've got to look it up too.
I'm going to get the gold star today.
There you go.
It is M through S.
I was going to say M through S, but I almost said M through T. Nice to see you all. Thank you.
As you can see also on our panel, we have our new activities director, Ms. Cunningham, who is waving there for you. We have our newest wellness center coordinator, Ms. Shobha Vaidyanathan. Did I get that right?
Vaidyanathan.
Okay.
Hi, everyone.
And then we can see that we have some of our ASB students or senior class officers, I mean. And if you guys would feel free to introduce yourselves, that way we can do that. So Kaylee's box, would you guys want to say hello real quick and introduce yourselves?
Hi, everyone. My name's Apurva Chakravarthi, and I'm senior class president.
Hi, I'm Kaylee, and I'm vice president.
And then in Catherine's box.
Hi, I'm Naomi, and I'm class rep. And I'm Kat, and I'm the other class rep.
Perfect. Well, there we are. So that's our panel for tonight. Again, in terms of introductions, we've already sort of jumped ahead with some of those things. Our agenda tonight includes the campus support team and communications, calendar of events, discussion about transcripts and college application processes, how to get help this senior year, and then question and answers at the end. We, in our experience, typically can get this done in about 60 minutes. So that is our goal, is that we can get everybody to their evenings at about 8. So our senior class officers have a couple of minutes to introduce themselves again and to speak about their goals and big plans for this school year. So without further ado, senior officers.
I think it's not letting us screen share for some reason. Otherwise, should we just kind of talk? We can just talk about it. But okay, yeah, we can just talk. So hi, everyone. Again, my name is Apurva, and thank you so much for listening. Today, we'll be covering like our class office, our homecoming plans, our other plans for the year, and ways that parents can get involved. So to just reintroduce ourselves in case hi, my name's Apurva, and I'm president.
Hi, I'm Kaylee. I'm vice president.
Hi, I'm Naomi, and I'm class rep. And I'm the other class rep, and I'm Kat. So with this being our last year at Toga, we want to make it as special and fun as possible. We hope to execute a great homecoming and prom and bring our class together.
So to talk a little bit about homecoming, our homecoming theme this year is going to be Phineas and Ferb. Our performance day will be September 4th. Unfortunately, parents are not allowed to come watch because of COVID and just got some guidelines, but there will be a live stream and you guys will be sent the link shortly. It will be during lunch, so it's a red day and it's going to be 11:55 to 12:35. This year we have 7 dances. We have our all girls dance, our all boys dance, K-pop, partners, stunt, Bollywood, and then we have a special drumline / color guard performance. And we're super excited. Also, just another note for the parents, we're gonna have 2 mandatory run-throughs, which we need all people who are participating in the dances to come to. The first one will be September 18th from 5:30 to 7, and then September 23rd from 8 to 9. It is crucial that everybody who's participating comes, so please, parents, if you could remind your kids to come, that would be amazing.
And another big part about homecoming, aside from our quad days, is the decorations. So if you've ever come onto campus during homecoming week in a normal year, you'll normally see all the hallways completely decked out in each of the classes' themes. And because we're seniors, the arch that goes above the student center is also our responsibility. So all of this requires many days of preparation to successfully pull off the decorations. And so it's really helpful when we have as many people coming in to help. It's not really something you need to have any sort of artistic talent for. Just coming in and helping is super helpful. And we will be having preparation days for our decorations on September 4th, 5th, 6th, so this Labor Day weekend. And then next weekend, which is the 11th and the 12th, at my house. If you want to tell your kids, they can just look on our Instagram for the address and the times. And yeah, if anything helps, and please encourage your kids to come and help.
Yes, and so also to add on to decorations, we're gonna have a move-in weekend, which is basically when we are able to bring in all the decorations that we have made off campus onto the campus, and also where we're gonna be assembling our arch, which is gonna go up ahead the quad steps. And basically, move-in weekend will be September 18th and September 19th, which is a Saturday and Sunday before homecoming week. On Saturday, the move-in weekend times are going to be from 9 to 5 a.m. or 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then on Sunday, it will also be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
So we really encourage HOCO decoration donations, and a list of stuff you can donate are wood, cardboard, paint, paint brushes, paper, tape, glue, basically any art supplies are welcome. And apart from homecoming, we're currently selling class t-shirts. The last day to order a class t-shirt for this round of orders is actually tomorrow, September 1st. So in order to get the shirt in time for homecoming and the first rally, the orders need to be placed very soon, tomorrow. And they can be bought for $25 on the Saratoga High School web store. So this year, our prom is actually combined with the junior class, and it's going to be on May 28th. And we're super excited for our venue, but it's a secret right now.
Okay, and our last agenda item for this presentation is ways that parents can help. So we already mentioned like donations for homecoming, and when it comes to be prom time, we'd also love like volunteers and helping. Just like there's so much stuff to help out with, whether it's getting kids on buses, but that all information will come out later. But right now, we would love if you guys could help us out financially by giving us cash donations, because while we are all extremely excited to put on these like large scale events and just make all of our like last years at Toga the most memorable that they can be, they all cost a lot of money. And our class office is committed to fundraising as much as we can to raise most of the money, but we benefit from we benefit so much from your donations and help, and anything helps tremendously. And if you are willing to donate, which we are so grateful for, you can donate on the SHS web store. And from there, you'll just see a link that says senior class donations, and you can donate whatever amount. We actually did have a QR code, but since we're not presenting, I think I'm not sure how helpful it'll be, but maybe we can send out our slides later if you guys want to use that QR code and just kind of
Apurva,
refresh on anything we talked about today.
Apurva, I changed the settings, so you might
But
want to try putting
yeah,
up
that's
the QR
basically
code
it. Thank
now.
you so much for listening. And just as a quick reminder, if you could please tell your kids to buy the class t-shirts, I believe that that's the most important thing that is happening right now, and orders close tomorrow at 11:59. But thank you so much for listening, and we are so excited to serve your kids this year.
All right, so what we can do is we can get the slides from the seniors and then embed that into this presentation. And then in our Friday letter, we'll have the links to the presentation. We'll have the links to the recording also. So anybody who wants to be able to rewatch us or to look closer at the presentation that our seniors just did, you'll have your opportunity to do so. So that is part of that part. Our next quick presentation will be from our new Wellness Center coordinator. And so Ms. Shoba will have an opportunity to speak about the therapeutic services on the next slide and to introduce you to a lot of the different things that we offer. So Ms. Shoba, your turn.
Thank you, Greg. Hello, everyone. I'm the newest addition to Saratoga High School. I'm an associate marriage and family therapist, and I'm being supervised by my clinical supervisor. At the Wellness Center, we hope to assist your child, your youth with any concerns. Maybe they have anxiety, depression. They're able to come and just de-stress, relax, or talk to a therapist on site. At any time, we have at least 2 therapists on site for their assistance. And our focus might be to make sure that your youth can have these concerns addressed and focus and perform well in their classes. As it says on the slide, all these sessions will be confidential, and you're able to make a referral by going on the website. Drop-in sessions are also available, including crisis. We've already been doing that in my first week of being here. Telehealth sessions are also available. The Wellness Center is actually located on campus. It's a beautiful, beautiful location. You should come and visit us when you can. And this is our staff. This is our team. We have the clinical health outreach worker, Marina Barnes, Albert, Melanie, and myself. And we look forward to assisting your son or daughter. Everybody is welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And like the seniors, donations are always welcome to our Wellness Center. Oftentimes that's done through our foundation, who then helps to support our programs. And the foundation helps to pay for our CASI therapists and to have our community health outreach worker and such like that. So the next 4 slides is just to reintroduce you to our teams. From the previous years, you probably were used to Ms. Young and myself being a team for our last names A through G. You can see last year, Ms. Young and I were part of the Beetlejuice, and my first year together, we were Wreck-It Ralph. And then, as you can see, I'm a Star Wars fan, and she's a New Kids on the Block fan. Believe it or not, the dancer on the right of the Star Wars, that's Mo, and the one who's more serious is me. Might be true, might be not. We'll see. Our next team is Ms. Psyche and Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson and Ms. Psyche work with families with H through L. Mr. Thompson is a huge baseball card fanatic, and Ms. Psyche has a weakness for French fries. Our next team, in fact, would you like to introduce yourselves, Ms. Evanoff?
Absolutely. Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Miss Evanoff, and as Mr. Louie shared and Ms. Satake, I am overseeing alphabet M through S, and I'm partnered with Miss Allen. I play the violin, but I play poorly, and I've already talked to some of your students about this. So they'll hear me and then they'll come home and complain, I'm sure. Nice to see you all and excited to be here with you all.
Ms. Satake, you want to introduce your team?
Sure. So wrapping up at the end of the alphabet, last year there was a little bit of a shift where Matt and I took the 2024 S's. They've actually all gone back to Eileen and Abra, but Matt and I will handle T through Z at the end of the alphabet. And as you can see, Mr. Torrens is a huge history nerd. Don't ever let him pin you down to talk about local history. And I myself am a very serious home baker in these pandemic times, and that's a picture of my Instagrammable sourdough bagels.
And we want to just take a moment to thank Ms. Monarchy. For those of you who maybe don't know, after 30 years of serving our community, at the end of this week, Ms. Monarchy is retiring and going to enjoy a nice road trip across the country with her family. So we want to just take a moment to thank Ms. Monarchy for all of her great work and her indelible marks that have been part of our campus and who we are right now. For our facilities and attendance, again, you may recognize these faces. Ms. Arms there on the left, Ms. Peck there on the right. They are involved with helping you with attendance especially. And we're using eHall Pass as a way to help digitize our attendance and our passes to both minimize the need to touch paper and multiply touch paper from place to place, but also to eventually create greater efficiency for our students and our families and our teachers. So we're still learning it. It's still a work in progress, but we will get it to that point and it'll be part of what we do. On the next slide is the health office. We have a new health clerk. And so Ms. Perez is our new health clerk and campus supervisor. As a reminder, Screener 19 is important for all of our students to do before they come to school. But should they accidentally push a button or should they indicate that they have a sore throat and Screener 19 then gives them an X, they can check in with Ms. Perez for her to screen them and then to decide whether or not it's a good idea for them to be at school or not. Our health office is in the back of the main office. We recently renovated it last spring. So if you haven't been to the campus, you can see the accessibility of our health office and our quarantine tents should we have students with symptoms that may need to be screened and then possibly sent home. And our student activities and activities office, again, we introduced Ms. Cunningham, our activities director, and Ms. Abra is our activities secretary, who works out of that corner of the main office there that you can see. Again, the link to the web store is there. You can see it on our homepage under the quick links, and then you'll get this in the presentation as we move forward. And then we also have our guidance staff. And so with that, we have Ms. Fong, who works with our transcripts and work permits, Mr. Wise, who is our registrar, and Ms. Gita, who is now in our positions supporting our counseling office for college visit scholarships, testing, such as PSAT, SAT, and AP exams. So a very busy team that is there to help us and to benefit our students. And we've seen this slide a moment ago in terms of our wellness center team. So Ms. Barnes is a community health outreach worker. That is a new position that supports our program and our students. She'll also be working with our youth outreach workers who will be supported there to support our peers. Albert and Melanie are our therapists from Cassie, which again, Foundation helps to pay for. And then you met Shoba, who is with us as our wellness coordinator for our campus. So we have a fantastic wellness center, as Shoba has described, and we really hope that our students take advantage of it when they're in a place of need. Would you like to talk about technology needs, Ms. Satake?
Sure. So when I was putting this presentation together, I didn't quite realize how many apps your kids need to download onto their phones and devices. And I can definitely understand for families how overwhelming it can be when you're trying to figure out, wait, what am I supposed to do for which things? And so I think it's helpful to just kind of see all of these on one screen. A lot of these your students are already familiar with. Kids have been super good about using Screener 19 to check in the mornings to class, as well as during tutorial and advisory. eHall Pass is new. We've been using that particularly with our seniors for our college meetings, so they're getting used to that. Some of these things they definitely had a lot of practice with last year when we were remote, and this year in particular, I think you'll find that your students will be using Naviance a lot for their college needs. And this little T in the middle, that's actually for Titan, which is the, we're now doing cashless in the cafeteria. And so that is, I believe, under the quick links on the guidance page as well, if your student wants to purchase lunch, because they realize that 30 minutes to get from school to a Mod Pizza is really not doable and making it back on time. They might want to just put some, load some money onto their Titan account and get some food on campus. For parents, I think you'll find that I'm getting confused myself as parent, like which kid goes with, is a Parent View or Parent Square or what have you. But I think what you'll find in terms of communication from our school, where you will find the most recent information will both be on the school website through meetings like this, which I think is maybe a little bit less personal, but more nimble in terms of parents who might be traveling or, you know, at work or something like that. Doing a Zoom meeting allows us to just make our materials and just more information from school more accessible to all parents. And new to us this year is Parent Square. So Greg, I'm gonna let you kind of talk a little bit about that for parents who might not be on that yet.
So for Parent Square, if you haven't yet registered, truth is you're probably not here because that's where most of our information has already come through. But if you somehow got here a different way and you're not sure what Parent Square is, we will be sharing webinars for families soon to help remind them. We're also trying to get a report from the district to understand how many of our parents are not yet scheduled or connected to Parent Square so we can be able to support them. But the Parent Square is our new mode of communication. We used to use School Messenger. Parent Square is a little more user-friendly. And through that, we will send most of our emails to our families. I'll do my Friday letter through it in those ways. And then there's other like really nice functions that we can do, especially when there's emergencies. So that is our Parent Square pitch.
So I guess I'll talk a little bit about this in terms of calendar announcements. You can see the print is probably too small for you to see. And so we'll make sure that you have access to this presentation through the Friday letter. I've already linked it into this Friday's Friday letter. And it's also available for parents on the school website. On the guidance part of the website, there's a section called For Parents. But a couple of things that we want to make sure that you're aware of, because fall is a really, really busy time, is that back to school night's tomorrow. So we'll see you again. And this we'll see juniors on Thursday. So every night we're all together. Separately. It will be virtual. And so Mr. Louie will be sending the grid with all of the teacher links for each period through Parent Square, so that you have access to kind of just hear from the teachers. And it's not going to be pre-recorded. It will be live and according to a particular schedule. So definitely hope to see you there. For seniors in particular, the last day to change the level of a course. So if your student has suddenly discovered that AP Physics was not all that it was cracked up to be and would like to consider moving to college prep physics, the last day to request that change is Friday. And so if your student is kind of on the bubble about that, we definitely encourage your student to pop in to come see us. The counselors are available in their offices every day, and they can email us as well. Very special, because this is pretty new, is that we decided last week that we would in fact host a school day SAT for seniors only on October 28th. And so the registration window for that, and that information will come from Abra Evanoff through Parent Square, that the registration for that will start next week. It will be for 1 week only. And so in our conversations, each counselor with each senior is talking about whether or not they want to take advantage of this opportunity. If they're not sure, they can definitely email us. I know that for myself, the kids that I saw last week, I told them, no, we're not doing it, but just kidding, we are doing it. So please make sure that your students know that we are going to host an SAT for them on October 28th, and they should sign up for that next week. We're going to talk about this packets business in just a little bit, but some other dates that I wanted to make sure that students know that registering for AP exams happens quite early, even though the exam is not until May. The registration through total registration starts on September 20th. So we've got a few weeks, and you'll hear about this more from Abra, who has the, maybe dubious pleasure of being in charge of all of our testing needs. But that's something that we want to make sure that students know about as well, because that will be online. A couple of this other stuff is more college related, so we'll talk about that in just a bit. But I think if there was something that we want to remind and encourage students is that the semester is very busy for them. It's tough for kids to come back and kind of try to find a new rhythm of being in school full time. Many of them have expressed mourning and sadness for asynchronous Wednesdays. I think they really miss that chance to just kind of catch their breath, and shorter periods, they miss that as well. But there's plenty of time and plenty of support to help walk them through all of their college applications, testing needs. Our whole support team is here to help your students through the semester, and there is plenty of time for all of that. I want to also just kind of, Ms. Cunningham put this together, and so the print is very tiny, and this is probably more for kids than for you, especially since parents are not permitted on campus at this time. But there's a lot of activities on campus. School spirit is alive and well, and we're so excited and happy to have Ms. Cunningham join us and help lead our students. Like, she has wonderful enthusiasm. Our ASB team has been great, and they're doing so much, and they're so excited about having homecoming together again. I think is really going to be a big piece of us coming back together as a community. So definitely, if you can come to the homecoming game, tune in to the live stream. The kids are putting so much time and energy into their performances. It's like more serious than the Academy Awards, honestly. And so there's just a lot of really fun activities for the kids coming up this year. And as much as possible, despite everything that's happening, we just want to make this year, we want to be present for kids and make sure that we do our best to make all of these activities happen and to give them the best experience on campus that we can. So after all of this warm, fuzzy, rah-rah, we're gonna switch gears a little bit and kind of talk about some senior stuff. So I always feel like this transition's a little bit abrupt, but hey, transcripts. So one of the things that counselors are doing is setting aside appointments to meet with each student and to make sure that seniors are on track for graduation. And so this is just a sample of what you can find for yourself on ARIES on the student transcript. The colleges won't see this piece. This credit summary is just to help students make sure that they understand how many units they have left. And our kids are real enthusiastic about school. And so really, the two required classes left for students to graduate in good standing are going to be senior English and government and economics. There are a few sad souls who have not yet done their PE. So they are running out there with the sophomores in the heat every day, and they are heaving big sighs. So if you have younger kids, just remind them to maybe not point and laugh at their senior sibling for putting it off, but this is a requirement. Students do need to complete 4 semesters of PE. And so this is just to kind of help you know what we're doing with seniors. You'll see that we're not concerned about students not completing enough credits, but in terms of what colleges are going to see, they will see 2 GPAs, a total weighted GPA. So that includes every single class that the student has taken in high school, and that includes non-P classes like health and PE. So that's everything that they've ever done here. That GPA will also potentially be above a 4.0 because of students who might take honors or AP classes, they will get an extra grade point for those courses. The total unweighted GPA is a true 4.0 GPA. So if a student has gotten an A in every single class, regardless of honors or AP classes, this number will not go above a 4.0. And so the other thing that students might have questions about when they're applying to UC and CSU is that they'll be like, what is this California State ID? Every student has one. It is also listed on their transcript in case they can't find it. But if they need help with that, they can always pop in and see us and we'll get that number to them. The other thing that we want students to know about transcripts is if they took any summer coursework that they want to put on their official transcript, we would like that. Oh wait, that's tomorrow. It's due September 1st. We've been putting out memos about this whole time. Nothing will melt or faint if it's not in by September 1st, but in case a student had done like a VPA class for UCCSU and they want that on their high school transcript, very easily, I think universally all outside programs are doing electronic transcripts now, so they can always just order an electronic transcript to be sent to their counselor or to the registrar, Mr. Wise, and we will make sure that that's included. Part of our conversation with students is looking at the transcript and then making sure that we have a conversation about any remediation that needs to happen. So those conversations have been ongoing with the student and the counselor the whole time across 4 years. And so, you know, my meetings with kids have been really smooth. Mostly I've really just been enjoying hearing about how they're doing, what they did over the summer and what their plans are for the future. But if there are any questions about your student's transcript, please don't hesitate to reach out to the counselor. So let's kind of switch gears for a little bit and talk about applying to college. So we had a workshop for students last spring. In order to make it very nimble, we made the 4 counselors made a video with a slide deck for students to watch, which is available for them on Canvas that they can watch anytime at 2 times speed. I hear, like, after 2.5 speed, you really can't understand anything anymore. But what we did was host a Q&A in case they had any questions. And then after that, had them start thinking about what kind of schools they might be interested in, and have them make like a list of like 15 or 20 colleges that they're thinking about applying to. And then in our meetings these last couple of weeks, we've kind of been going over that list for them. And, applying to college, there's a lot more than just the name or the prestige. What I'm learning from Malcolm Gladwell's podcast is even rankings is very, very sus. And I'm always reminding kids when they're thinking about a school, like, I think I want to go to University of Rochester. And I was like, do you know where that is? And they don't. So we look it up on Google Maps and they see how close it is to Canada and the average like snowfall, and kind of, maybe reevaluate what that life is going to look like. And so we just want to have those conversations with your children and make sure that they kind of know what they're thinking about and looking for, how flexible they are about their choices, and just, kind of be a sounding board for where they think they're going to apply to. So this has changed a lot for your class. And this is, we're continuing to attend conferences with colleges. We're actually going to go to the UC conference next week. But a lot of this has changed midstream for your class. And so in case you were not aware, I want for everybody to know that for the class of 2022, the SAT, ACT, we're happy to offer it and provide that service to our community, but it is not required for applying to college this cycle. The UC and the community colleges never asked for a test. UC and CSU, they are now completely test blind, which means they're not even going to look at any test scores. And by and large, most private schools and out-of-state public schools are either test blind, which means they don't consider the test grade at all, or test optional, which means if they have it and you want to submit it, great. If you don't want to submit it, they cannot hold that against you, nor will it penalize your candidacy for that college. The subject test is gone forever, and I'm certainly not sad about that. It was a huge imposition for our students, additional testing, the College Board trying to steal your money, and really not a good indicator of college readiness or how qualified your student is for a particular school. So really what we're communicating to your students is if they want to take the test at least once, we have the October test date for them. If they are really tired and overwhelmed by everything else going on, they don't have to. If they want to try the October 28th and see how it goes and then decide whether or not they want to submit that score, they absolutely can and choose not to submit. What I don't want to see kids struggle with is, I have kids who are like, have already done it 3 times, had driven to like Arizona or like, I don't know, like there was someone who drove to Chico or like Bakersfield and nobody wants to go there. And it's just not necessary. There's kind of a law of diminishing returns for students with regards to testing too many times. So if your student's already done it twice and they want to do it one more time on October 20th, that's fine. Beyond that, I would really discourage it just because students kind of get testing fatigue. Okay. I see in the Q&A that there's some question about letters of rec, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So give me a second, we'll get back to that question. So let me just kind of talk about options for our students. And so one of the things that I always talk about with my students is what is their bottom line? Is it going to a 4-year college no matter what? Because that's going to guide my guidance for them a certain way. But if I have a student who's like, you know what, there's like a certain kind of school, a certain caliber of school that I want to go to. And if that's the case, I would say, okay, well, if that's the case, let's have you keep community college as an option. We have a lot of students who would love to attend a very, selective UC school, and they might not get in the first time. They can certainly apply, and we encourage them to do that. But community college is a fabulous option because California community colleges have a huge commitment to junior college transfers. So if a student applies to UCLA, whose admit rate was truly ridiculous this last year, and they don't get in this first time, that is not an indicator that your student is unqualified or unprepared for UCLA. It just means out of 135,000 applications, there was not space for them in the class. However, they can attend West Valley, join their honors program, and they have a transfer agreement with UCLA. And so that is, kind of one direction that I want to kind of keep in mind for students, like what's your safest option, right? Like, is it a really generous four-year college that lots and lots of kids get into, or is it going to be community college and then transferring school to a school that you actually want to go to? Okay. The next group of schools that I want to address are the UC and CSU. So definitely it's going to be different this year because they are not looking at test scores. They are kind of discussing whether or not they're going to create a test of their own or just not use it. And so, I mean, for better or for worse, your kids are part of this pandemic group that is their guinea pig group of trying to figure out how are student qualifications the same or different than how they used to do admissions. So what we're telling students about applying to the UC and CSU is definitely need to apply broadly. It was really, really tough to get into the top UCs last year. The ethnic studies part of me thinks it's great that there is greater equity and greater access for more students in California to apply, but the number of seats at each school remains the same. So it becomes more selective, or feels more selective, because it's the same number of seats, but way more people vying for that spot. So for our students, it's not an issue of them not meeting the A through G requirements, but because there's no longer test scores and every school has been calculating GPA differently. Some schools insisted on credit, no credit for one semester. With the new AB 104, where some students were allowed to choose, selectively choose to do a pass, no pass for courses, that would affect GPA as well. So what I'm really encouraging kids is to focus all of their attention on those personal insight questions, and to make sure that they do the best job and use every word judiciously and thoughtfully to make sure that they are really being honest about who they are, to not apologize for who they are, but to make sure that they become real live breathing people on paper for the UC readers. There was a question about letters of recommendation. For CSU, definitely not. CSU requires no writing, just they want to know what you did in high school. For UC, very rarely, there may be some UCs that request a letter of recommendation, and that's very individual, and that will be prompted by the UC. So if there is a request that comes through, students need to let their counselor know so that we can send a letter on their behalf, but it would be prompted by the college, not by us. So when students are applying to the UC and CSU, which is due November 30th for the entire system, they would need to just submit the applications. And then in the case of the UC, they would also need to submit personal insight questions as well as a list of their activities. So in case you are unfamiliar with it, the UC and CSU have something called A through G requirements. And so if you count this through, it's A through G all the way down. So things that we've been keeping track of with your students this whole time is making sure that they maintain their UC-CSU eligibility. So from the beginning, we've reminded them it's very important that you have college eligible grades of C- or higher in English, all 4 years, 2 years of social studies for UC, although we require way more than that, so that's never been an issue for our students. 3 years of math, at least through Algebra 2 for the UC, 2 years of laboratory science for the UC. So that means biology and chemistry or physics. For CSU, that can mean biology and earth science, chemistry, or physics. PE is a high school graduation requirement. It is not required by the college system. The one area that I would say does not match the UC is the one that I've highlighted here in yellow. Our graduation requirement is 1 year of a visual performing art or a world language. But for the UCCSU, it's a year of visual performing art and 2 years of a world language. And by 2 years of a world language, I mean the number that's attached to the class, not the actual number of years your students had a butt in class. So if your student has completed at least through Chinese 2, Spanish 2, Japanese 2, or French 2, they will have met the minimum eligibility requirement. Now, VPA generally isn't an issue for our students unless they have been spending all of their love and energy on journalism or STEM and they kind of ran out of time. We as counselors have been checking to make sure that students have that year of VPA, whether through a community college class or that they're enrolled in a class this year. And I think one of the funnest things I see is seniors who are like, okay, it's time, I gotta do it. And they do like drama 1 for the first time or like ceramics for the first time. And it just gives them like a different energy to use a different part of their brain. That's really fun. Now for private colleges and out of state, it's really, really individual. And so a lot of time for students is just kind of spent sorting information. Organization in their college application process is really important. I've seen some kids have some very elaborate spreadsheets, or they use, some different apps to kind of keep them on track. A lot of the actual academic requirements are very similar to the UCCSU, but the added piece for students that is somewhat onerous is not just one essay, but each individual college might have some additional ones specific to their college. They'll also need letters of recommendation, which we've been talking about with all of our students a lot. And they'll also look at activities similar to the UC. So that kind of leads me into some of the stuff that I alluded to in the calendar earlier about what is all the hullabaloo about applying to private schools. And so you may have heard your kids talk about packets, although that's kind of now like passing into legend since we don't really do paper packets anymore. Everything is digital on Canvas to make it as accessible to students as possible. So we have a Canvas module. We have not thought of a clever name for it yet. So it's just the Canvas module. And so for students who are applying to any schools that require official transcripts or letters of recommendation, Saratoga has our own internal process. And the reason for that is we have 354 kids in the senior class, and we probably will have about, I would wager about 280 to 300 kids apply to at least one private school, which would require 3 letters, 2 teacher letters, and a secondary school report. So say a kid applies to 10, that's 30 letters that need to be sent on particulars at particular times. And so we have our own process just to keep us organized and just make sure that our commitment to submitting materials on time, that we're doing right by your kids. So we kind of split up into what the student needs to do and then what the school needs to do. So when students are applying to college this fall, their responsibility, the most important thing is that they submit their application on time. And the Common App system is always going to freak out on November 1st. CSU always busts on November 30th, so not waiting until the last minute. So completing the application on time is the most important thing, and that is your student's responsibility. The other piece of it is, should your student decide to send SAT or ACT scores, you also need to order score reports from those providers on your side. Now, once the student has submitted the materials in this module, it will become our responsibility as a school to make sure that we submit letters of recommendation and official transcripts on time to colleges. So in order to do that, the way I'll just show you a picture so you can see. On Canvas, it is the first, it's under the course called Class of 2022. It's like the first button on top. And there's just like a list. It's just like a checklist of things that students need to do. The first bunch of things that the kids need to do is to watch the video if they hadn't. We've been going over it individually with each kid to make sure that they understand. But what we want to make sure that kids know is that it's only for colleges that require transcripts and letters. So UCs and CSUs have nothing to do with this. The students just apply on their own, because for those schools, students self-report everything. We don't have anything to do with that. Nothing that the student uploads into Canvas will ever be seen by a college. That's all for our own use, okay? And the due dates, I'll kind of explain this a little bit more. So what happens in this module, the way I've been explaining it to kids, is that they have 3 letters that they'll need by and large for private schools. 2 will come from academic teachers, so core academic teachers that would be science, math, history, English, world language, right? And those are going to be the people who talk about your student as a student in the classroom, their performance, their contributions in the classroom. The 3rd letter is called the secondary school report, or the SSR. And that is going to be written by a counselor or an administrator. And our job is to talk about your child as a person. And so a lot of these first set of activities that are listed here on the right of the screen are all things that we would like from the student to help us write a richer letter. As I remind kids, like, GPAs are going to be kind of suspect this year. Test scores are not going to necessarily be available, but they got to give you 5 minutes to read your writing and to read your letters. And so we want every single piece of your student's application to kind of provide a different insight into who your child is. And so we want to make sure that we have as much information to work with as possible. So these green sheet feedback forms are from not the teachers who are writing the academic letters, but it could be from a coach. It could be from an outside piano teacher. If your kid's been babysitting the next door neighbor for the last 5 years, like, I want to know about that, right? Like, I don't know how students spend their time necessarily outside of school. There's some reflection questions that the students can answer, providing us a resume so we know how your student has spent their time these last 4 years. And there's an assignment for parents. So we can talk about this right now, is you know your kids better than we ever will in a way that we never can. And so we love to hear from parents about who your kid is. Maybe your kid has overcome adversity as a child that we don't know about. I have received some of the best photo essays I have ever seen. Sometimes parents are like, oh my gosh, I cannot write an essay. I'm too old for this. That's fine. We get bullet points. We get slide decks. If you need translation from Chinese, we have a translator who can help with that. Any format is fine. And if you are feeling shy, you don't want your kids to see what you write, you can email it to the counselor directly. But more than anything, it really kind of just provides this extra human touch to know that these kids have really just done a lot and they're really cool people, and you know that better than anything else. So if there's anything that you want to share with us about your kid, please do so. Let's see. The next part of the module kind of talks about Naviance. And so what I've been telling students is that Naviance is going to be our mail carrier. They're going to be housing all of these documents, the transcripts, the letters. And so it's really important that the student do their part and connect their Naviance account to their Common App account so that they'll talk to each other, so that we can send all the materials digitally. By and large, all schools are using Naviance, or they're using Common App or Coalition. So I don't even know that there were any colleges that we wound up having to snail mail this last year, but it's very important that your students do this piece. And so the other thing that we need students to do on Naviance is make sure that they add their teacher writers on here. There are some colleges that are very particular. They only want one letter. So if your student has a particular letter that they'd like to send from a particular teacher, they have to specify that on Naviance. And I swear to you that we have troubleshot all of these assignments. It sounds like a lot, and I think some kids are maybe just avoiding it because it feels overwhelming, but each step of the module is just one disparate task that your kid can do pretty quickly. And so I've been encouraging kids like, look, I'm not asking you to do the whole thing, just pick one thing to do today, and then you can check it off. The other thing that I'm not totally sure that kids know about that are starting up next week are college visits. So last year they were definitely all remote. This year they're a mix of remote and in-person. So in Naviance, every time a college has reached out to us and they want to host a session, they'll let us know if they want it to be remote or in person, and the student can register for that right on Naviance. Excuse me. These visits are for students, and we definitely encourage kids to attend, because more often than not, the people who come to do these college visits is the rep, the area rep, who's going to wind up reading your child's application. So we want to make sure that they have a chance to meet them, and usually it's the college rep that becomes the greatest advocate for the student. Greg, can you take over for a second while I cough my guts out?
Yeah, definitely. You want to mute yourself. So paying for college, obviously, there's a lot of different ways that it can be done. The FAFSA coming up, financial aid. Oh shoot, I just stopped. The acronym, I completely blanked on, sorry. But October 1st is your date to circle on your calendar. In terms of your profile, again, that's going to also open on October 1st. And so you'll need to, as Alinna said a few times throughout this, you'll need to find out what colleges are needing for that. And then in terms of scholarships and grants, we will have stuff on our school webpage that will offer the different things that come up. Ms. Gita, who we introduced to earlier, will be able to update that throughout the school year. And then you can be able to see what it is that the colleges themselves are offering for the different ways that you can get your way through school.
I'll also just add that Ms. Gita has been working really hard to update the scholarship information, both on the school website and on Naviance. And so there are some that are very specific to our area. And so we definitely want students to come check this out. The other thing that I'll add about scholarships is, especially if your student is thinking about applying early decision to a college or something, frequently there are merit scholarships for students at particular colleges. The tricky thing about applying early decision is that that decision will be made completely separate from financial aid. So if your family is in a position to handle the cost of a private school education, huzzah. If not, I strongly encourage students to also be checking the grants and scholarships website for their ED school to see whether or not they qualify to apply for like a half tuition scholarship or a full tuition scholarship. It's usually like a presidential scholarship or trusteeship scholarship or something like that. That will just make it, that might help to bridge the cost for your child's next step on their education journey. The last thing that we'll kind of go over with kids later on is it feels, kids have been coming in and telling me, it's like, every day feels like 1,000 days. And yes, we agree. Some days feel super, super long, but the time goes very quickly and kids lose steam. And so we just want to encourage students to do their best work all the way through the school year. Getting rescinded from college for goofing off in the spring is a real thing. It's really important, and I know it's hard for kids because they like live and die by text messages, but checking email regularly is like a real adulting thing that they need to get on board with. Not just their school email, because their teachers are communicating through that venue through Canvas, but also like whatever personal email that they're using to apply to colleges. Sometimes they'll send updates, sometimes they'll send requests for like missing information, or like, hey, don't forget to like register for housing. All of that happens through electronic communication. So checking that regularly is really, really important. And we also
say something too real quick about the personal emails. I've seen at times it's important to pay attention to what your child's personal email address is and what it represents. Sometimes we don't pay attention to that, and the next thing you know, it's not necessarily the most professional thing that they should be using with colleges. So as a word of advice, double check with your students what it is that email address they're using, and they may need to change your email to something more professional if it's something that's a little more questionable from when they were younger.
I saw a really good one that was like some kind of Pokemon situation. I was like, I don't think you want to be Charizard 7942 anymore. They're like, oh my gosh, that was middle school. So the other thing, I just want to say back to this, that manners is very important. Teachers are really busy and very overwhelmed with figuring out how to do school again as well. It's not a part of their regular tasks, but writing letters of recommendation is a real labor of love on their behalf. And so it's very important to recognize that teachers don't have to write, they choose to write because they care about your student and they want the best for your kid. So please remind them to send thank you notes. It's really important to just come back and close the loop with your letter writers and let them know what your plans are for the following year. It really makes a difference to kind of close out that relationship. In general, starting this year, I know that it's teachers have been very mindful about trying to on-ramp students back to a regular school year very thoughtfully and carefully. But we understand that it's been a long time and that some kids are overwhelmed. So while we all struggle to get accustomed to an uneven bell schedule, I don't think it's anyone's favorite, but I am appreciative of the fact that students have longer tutorials so that they can go see more teachers, and kids have been taking advantage of that. They're coming to see us, they're going to see their teachers and trying to stay on top of their academic work. I also want to highlight on here is that we will be providing student tutors who will be available in the student center. Mr. Louie has been working on that. So if they want to work with a peer in a class that they're having a hard time with, that is available. The district is also setting up adult tutors as well to be available to students. So the support team here at school is very invested in your child's well-being and academic success as well. So if you find that your kid is slipping, they should not be up till all hours right now. They should never be up till all hours, but especially not right now at the beginning of the school year. Please let us know so that we can support them. We also recognize, how hard it is right now and how confusing things are, and that there's a lot of feelings for kids, for adults, and we're all trying to figure out the best way to acknowledge our feelings and work through them and to cope in healthy ways. And so this photo with these dinosaur QR codes are links to the counselor's calendar directly. Kids have been really good about signing up for times so that they can see us when it works out for them. We are happy to meet with your student. We're taking drop-ins. We can do appointments with e-hall passes. We can do them in person. We can do them remotely, whatever works best for your kid. I think the other piece of it too is sometimes they might need more regular support. And so we're really excited about our therapeutic team on campus has been really great. Albert and Melanie have been awesome. We're excited about having Shobha. She's got a lot of experience. And so we have a referral center that students can self-refer, or if you're concerned about your student, you can also refer your student for just a check-in with a therapist. And if they want to kind of continue services and kind of just have someone in their corner to bounce ideas off of anytime, please don't hesitate to use that resource. And in general, as we're coming up on the end of our evening here, really, I'm thinking about this a lot for myself and my family, as my own family is going through a lot of transition, is that it's a tough time and it's okay that it's tough. Prioritizing self-care, whatever that might look like, both for adults. I know that as parents, we tend to give until we're bleeding from the eyes and then we don't know why we feel bad. That it's really important that our own cups are filled before that we can take care of our families. We are doing everything we can with our safety protocols to allow students to gather safely, because I just see so much joy in them being together and being with peers again, and just not feeling so isolated is just really important to student wellness. And I think sometimes, like, I want to be positive with kids, but I want to be honest that it's okay to not be okay sometimes. And it's okay for them to acknowledge that and to kind of like see it and work through it and not just try to like shove it under the rug. And so, I'm talking to kids every day and I want to, help them and help them take care of their business. But my first priority is to make sure that your kids are okay and that they feel heard and that they feel seen, that they have as much agency to make decisions and choices when, Tahoe is burning down and all this bad stuff is going on in the world, that they feel safe, or they feel safe enough to ask for help when they don't feel safe. So please, if you have questions as parents, our first priority is to your students, but if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email us and reach out. We're happy to set up a Zoom meet or a Google Meet with you at any time. We are kind of coming to the end of our evening. Greg, maybe we can take like a few questions.
Yeah. So going through that, the one question I think we have is, will summer courses taken from West Valley College be calculated towards the academic GPA? For example, courses such as macroeconomics, financial accounting, etc.
The answer is yes. We don't include an academic GPA on the transcript. We only do a total GPA. So it will be counted in the total GPA if the student chooses to include it on their high school transcript. But it is very important for students to recognize that if they choose not to put it on their high school transcript, that it is their responsibility to report it to colleges directly.
Another question would be, for rolling decision, when will transcripts and recommendations be sent, since it's not a hard deadline?
So we ask students to put that on their early form. So any colleges that have a deadline of December 1st or earlier, that request form where they request letters and transcripts, that is actually due next week. And so it's not that they have to finish the application, they're just submitting the request for the letters of rec. So we ask them to list it in chronological order by due date. And so if it's a rolling school, they would put that first, and we would make sure to prioritize those so that we can get those in sooner rather than later.
All right, here's a clarification question. For the student's task, what's the difference between Canvas versus Naviance?
So Canvas is our learning management system. So all the directions about how to manage Naviance and applications is on Canvas. Naviance is our mail carrier, and that is where students are going to list all of the colleges that they're applying to, and as well as the place where teachers and secondary school report writers put all of our materials, and we'll send it to the Common App through Naviance.
All right. So I bungled the FAFSA. So there's a question about, can you explain FAFSA, the free application for federal students aid? I think I got it now. The question is, what is it? Does everyone need to fill it out? Is it for financial aid or other uses as well? Does it put us on a mailing list for advertisers?
So I'm not super familiar with FAFSA, but you don't have to fill it out. It's federal aid, so free monies. That's always what I remind students that what we want. What we don't want are like loans or unsubsidized loans. We do encourage families who might need financial aid or want to be considered for financial aid to submit the FAFSA as close to when you can as possible. They open the application on October 1st. And the reason for that is where grant monies, which are free, are concerned, once they run out, they're done. So we want, if your student needs to be considered for financial aid, which is free money, not money you will have to return later, you would want to fill out the FAFSA. It does not put you on any mailing lists, as far as I know. That's really the College Board, who will send lots of like spam from colleges and other people.
Okay. Another clarification question for West Valley College courses counted. For West Valley College courses counted towards high school GPA, is the course counted as a 5.0 or 4.0?
4.0.
Okay. Is there a deadline to send the parent statement about my child to the counselor?
Sooner rather than later. Because we're collecting request forms next Wednesday, if we can get it from parents by next Wednesday, that would be great. Sometime in September is preferable.
Okay. When will they turn in the pink and green sheet?
I don't know what a pink sheet is. A green sheet is just a feedback form. It's not even a piece of paper anymore. It's just a Google form link that students have already been sending to other people. There's no specific time that it's due, but we encourage students to like ask those people who are doing feedback forms like sooner rather than later, so we can get it sooner rather than later.
On the Common App, there is a question about the GPA of a student. Which GPA students should provide, the total GPA or the academic GPA?
Total GPA, total weighted.
And what should the student do to connect Naviance with the Common App?
There is actually, that's one of the assignments in the Canvas module. And so there are step-by-step details for students to follow.
Okay. When we submit a list of schools early, September 8th in parentheses, should we also include schools for which the student will apply regular?
No, thank you for asking that. The same form will be due again a second time on November 3rd for the regular admission deadlines. So any colleges that have a December 2nd and later deadline, students will submit a second form later. And part of the reason that is intentional on our part, we were like really overwhelmed when a kid would put like, I don't know yet, I just put 25 down, and they only wind up applying to 12. It just got really confusing. So we want to like kind of focus our attention on getting the early stuff done first, and then give students some time to like reevaluate where they might want to apply to for regular decision, and then collect a second time later.
After September 8th, staying with that, when and how can we delete or add schools from the list if needed?
We totally get that kids are going to change their mind, and that's totally fine. We actually have an amendment form ready to roll. So if students need to make any changes, they can contact their counselor for that information.
And staying with the September 8th theme, after September 8th, can we edit the list of teachers which would send the reference letters to particular schools?
That gets trickier because it would need to be changed in Naviance and on the form. So the way that the form, and I could have sworn I had a slide with the form on it. The way that the form is organized is there's teacher number 1 and teacher number 2. So I've been telling students, teacher number 1 is your go-to person. That's a person whose letter is going to be sent to every school. So students kind of know already in their heart of hearts, like who is the teacher that they feel most connected to. And that would be the T1 person who gets sent to every school. A lot of colleges only ask for 1 letters, but they'll take 2. So if your student has 2 letters, it's totally fine. They can send both. But they really should already have in mind who their primary letter writer is.
Okay. Do UC and private colleges require first semester senior year grades to be submitted by the end of the semester?
UC and CSU do not. They will ask students for a list of classes they are currently enrolled in. Most private schools will ask for 7th semester grades. So first, it's called a mid-year report. And so we'll send those after we have the first semester grades through the Common App.
Okay. What is the due date for early packet? Is that the due date for requesting the early packet or the packet completion date?
It's really better if kids finish everything by September 8th, but we get the kids are busy. I'm not going to write 50 letters on September 8th. So if they kind of submit some stuff piecemeal, that's totally fine. I think the thing that kids worry about the most is whether or not they have to finish their application by September 8th, and that is absolutely not.
Another question about the community colleges. Does a West Valley course taken concurrently during the first semester count towards the GPA?
That would be up to the student. They would report on their application that they have a community college class in progress. If they want it included in their mid-year report, we can, or they can choose to send it separately.
Another GPA question. So for the Common App, the GPA will be total GPA. However, if some students took outside courses, but these courses are not included in the Saratoga transcript, will students calculate a separate GPA based on both Saratoga and outside courses and submit it to Common App, or still use the Saratoga total GPA only?
They'll just submit those transcripts, and colleges can do with it what they will. I don't know. Sometimes they will recalculate it, including the college classes. Sometimes they don't. That's really up to the college.
Okay. Here's a simple question. When are mid-year reports sent?
It will be at the end of January or beginning of February.
For college visits registered for or attended through Naviance, it was mentioned that they're usually run by the area rep who is reading the student's essay. Is it better, parentheses, like say to show demonstrated interest, to attend the visit through Naviance than say to privately sign up for a virtual tour on the college website?
I think anytime you can see a person, that human connection is great. It's not always possible to visit a campus. Honestly, it really depends on the school. For like a really large school, the person they're sending from UC Santa Barbara may or may not be the person who reads the application. But in particular, for smaller private schools where we might only get like 5 or 10 kids applying to that school, likely that will be the person who's reading. And anytime you can make a connection, I think it's positive.
Okay. For private colleges, do students need to submit mid-semester 1 grades or end of the semester grades?
Are those the same things? First semester or end of the semester? Am I hearing that right?
I need to submit mid-semester 1, so probably like
sometimes for some early decision schools, a college may request a progress report grade. Duke used to do this. I don't know if they still do, but that's why it's so important for students to check email and check their college portals, because if they request a progress report, like either the 6 or the 12-week progress report grades, we would need to do that, but the student would need to email their counselor and let us know.
All right. Again, the question being, how should parents provide supporting information to counselors about their child for the letter of recommendation?
I am answering that in writing right now. You can either have your kid upload it to Canvas, or you can email the counselor directly. I've got a whole folder of them already. Oh, here's a good question about connecting Naviance to the Coalition app. To not really talk about this one, Coalition is a separate platform than the Common App. Most colleges are on the Common App, so that's probably the most popular one that students use. There are some schools that are like pretty tenaciously hanging on to the Common App, to the Coalition. The one that's probably most popular for our students is the University of Washington. Naviance has no plans to become friends with the Coalition. So should the student need any luckily, University of Washington does not want letters or transcripts, but if your student actually prefers the coalition platform and needs letters and transcripts to be sent, they actually need to include our names, both the SSR writer and the teacher letter writers, on the coalition application, and it will actually email us links to like upload stuff. It's very onerous, but we'll do what we need to do to get it done. I think sometimes kids shy away from certain colleges simply because they don't want to have to deal with multiple platforms, but that's really up to the kid.
And that looks like we cleaned out our questions. So fantastic job, Ms.
answered
Satake.
40 questions? Most
Great job.
excellent.
Great job for that. So thank you.
I just want to say, kind of in closing, is that as you kind of think through some of this stuff and think of more questions, this is not the last chance house for asking questions. Please don't hesitate to talk to your kids, to email your counselor. We're happy to continue asking questions. As I've been telling students, like, we have like a 30-minute meeting, we sit down, we have a great and very fruitful discussion, but sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you're in the middle of doing something and then you have no idea. So I'm letting kids know, like, look, we're meeting once. You can make as many appointments to come see me as you need. You can drop in anytime, you can email me anytime, and I will respond. It's a confusing and a very long, detailed, nitpicky process. So please don't feel like you're alone. We're here to support your kids. We're here to support you. And let us know. All 8 of us are here to help your kid.
So thank you very much, everyone, for attending. As Ms. Satake said, we are here for you for the rest of this year. We are always open to ideas, suggestions, concerns, and cause for success, right? If you have something that we want to celebrate, we would love to celebrate with you. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. And we look forward to seeing you in less than 22 hours for back to school night. So
thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.